We'll be back in a second.
The Grappling Hour is brought to you by Gear, athletic support items created by grapplers for grapplers.
Yeah. Check it out.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Sparza, saying hello on this beautiful, what is this? It's a Tuesday. My weeks have been just blurring together a little bit, you guys, so forgive me if I'm, not quite sure. It felt like a Wednesday for a half minute, but no, it is Tuesday. It is 12:10 over here on the Best Coast time. I'm excited to bring to you a show a little bit later on today. We will have Kyle Chambers, who is fresh off a huge victory at the Combat Jiu-Jitsu qualifiers. Why you need qualifiers, I'll never know, but he won them, and we'll be chatting with him a little bit later and catching up with him. He is a good friend of the show, but for right now, we have a gentleman who won a Sogi Invitational, to be specific, Sogi 4. Now, there's a story here that caught my eye when I happened to see the photo, the celebratory photo that people put on their Facebook and their Instagram that says, hey, I just won this thing. On here, it says, jumped into Sogi 4 at the last minute to replace my buddy Josh and managed to win the whole thing. So before we bring him out, let's ask this question, and then we'll cut to our friend. But Chase, when you say last minute, how late are you talking about, Mr. Chase Hanna?
Pretty much like a day's notice.
So what is the story behind that last minute addition then?
Okay, so my buddy Josh, if you don't know him, he trains in Gulf Shores. He runs the program that used to be 10th Planet Gulf Shores. Anyways, he came up for a local super fight we have here in Atlanta, and he ended up hurting his shoulder at some point, and he was trying to train through it. So, I was already going to go on the trip anyways, right? So Sean was like, yeah, dude, we ought to just go out and, hang out. Josh is going to compete. And then we can go hang out and go train in New York. I was like, dope, that sounds awesome. So I was already going to go on the trip anyways, but Josh ended up getting hurt, and I was like, okay, I should probably try to prep a little bit, because I had, you never know. Josh is a pretty tough dude. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, he was talking about his shoulder. So I'm like, all right, well, let's kind of prep a little bit. And then that Thursday, so I believe the tournament was on Friday, I think, Friday or Saturday, something like that. So that Thursday, he was like, hey, is there any way, Chase can take my spot? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. My shoulder's pretty banged up. I tried to train through, and it just wasn't working out. So I was like, yeah, dude, I'm more than ready to do it.
So we're talking, okay, so this is you're saying about a day and a half. So you had an idea about a day and a half, but then you know for sure that you're going in. What was your thoughts on the bracket? Because here's the nice part. You know everybody in the bracket. They may not be in on you yet until the word kind of cracks in. So what was your thought on the bracket that you saw?
Man, I saw it and I was just super, super excited. I noticed Potts was in there, and I know he's done a lot of stuff in New York. I'm pretty sure he's from that area. Mm-hmm. And there was a few people I didn't recognize, but I knew the guy Slim. I looked him up or whatever, and I'm pretty sure he trains with Jason Rao and Matt Serra and those guys. So I was like, man, that's really super awesome. Like, I was super pumped up to do it. And I've competed. I've been doing professional jiu-jitsu for 3.5 years right at this point, I think. So for me, like, I was just super excited to do it. Like, I was like, dude, let's go. Like, I'm super pumped up.
When you say professional jiu-jitsu, what's the difference between professional and the unprofessional years, in your opinion? Has that been, like, do you disqualify the two, or do you separate them, is what you're trying to say there?
No, I just, the way I separate them is just pretty much if, like, there's, like, some sort of, obviously, like, the difference between, like, winning, like, a Naga belt and, like, hey, we got some serious competitors here, like, mm-hmm. So, I don't really, I mean, I kind of, right? I would say if there's money on the line, or if there's like some serious high level guys in there, I would say that's how I would separate it.
Well, talk to me about your day. I know it's about a week old. We were looking to try and do this a week ago. The schedules wouldn't mm-hmm. work out, but I want to talk about this now. If you can go ahead and recall and walk us through your day, what does it feel like? What does the beginning of a competition day, especially a day like that, look for you, sir?
Competition day. Okay. So usually, just depending on what time the event starts, like, we get there, typically like to get there an hour before the competition or whatever, just to get warmed up and loose and get a feel for, like, what the mat area is going to be like and stuff. However, at Sogi, we actually stayed with the guy that put it on, so we kind of had to be there a little earlier than normal. So I was there for a while, but
is he making you put on, like, do some of the setup? Is he coming over to you and being like, hey man, could you get that table? Also, if you could weigh yourself in, you know what, weigh the other competitors in too, because I'm trying to put a banner up. Do you mind if you do that?
No. He didn't do any of that stuff, but we did get some bagels. We did get some bagels for breakfast. I had a pizza bagel. It's literally like 2 giant bagel bites. It was pretty impressive. I was pretty pumped up about it. So
is that normal on the course for you? Because I'll let you know, man, just when I'm training, this is not a competition vibe, but when I'm training, I can't really eat before I go train. It's just I whatever goes into my stomach, I know I'm going to be terrible. I know that's extrapolated even more when people are competing, because you want to, have a certain kind of breakfast of champions. Is it just when they go, would you like this pizza bagel? And you go, I mean, I am hungry, so I will take that.
Yeah, dude, he was just like, dude, we're going to hit up this bagel shop. Like, do you guys like bagels? I was like, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of people who don't like bagels. But honestly, there's a window of time where I can eat, and I try not to eat anything crazy. I mean, the pizza bagel was a little out there, but it was like 8 or 9 in the morning, so I think I was cool.
I mean, I'll tell you this much. I do remember when I played sports pretty proficiently, I could put away a lot of things because of adrenaline within a certain window. Mm-hmm. So there are certain foods that I'm kind of like, I would never eat that. And then people would be like, but it's free. And I go, oh, I will eat that. Yes, correct.
Yeah, you just hand it to him and be like, what's in this? All right, cool, let's go.
So, okay, you were starting the day off. You were with the tournament head, I believe. Is that Chris, or is that who else is? Okay, so you're with Chris earlier in the day. Then people are starting to trickle in. You've gotten there early. Are you starting to size up the competition when that happens? Do people look over at you? Does the other competitors, do they know at this point that you're competing against them, or are they just coming up and be like, "Oh, hey man, good to see you. Yeah, okay, I got this thing I'm competing for," and you're like, "Yeah, me too."
Oh, sometimes, To be honest, like when I compete, I just try to be as normal as possible. So for me, like I'm just usually smiling, laughing, just cracking jokes. You know what I mean? Like I don't really size anybody up. I'm not like, oh yeah, but I could do some damage to that guy. Like I'm usually the smaller guy. I walk around at like 195, so I was actually underweight for that tournament. So like the guys were bigger, so there was no really like sizing anybody up. I think the only person that was shorter than me, I guess, would be Potts, but he's pretty thick boy. So I was like, there's no really sizing him up. Just gonna go in there and do it.
And okay, so what was your first match like? Do you have a recall of that?
Yeah, so actually, the first match, I'm pretty sure that was Potts. He came out in a singlet, which I thought was pretty dope. I was pretty excited about that.
What was I know that he's somebody who Potts and our pals in the BJJ meme world.
Oh yeah.
He, I've even thrown one of my friends to give him a singlet because I said, "Oh, you got to have one of these." When someone does come out wearing a singlet, what is the first thing that goes through your head? And what singlet was he wearing?
Man, I can't remember exactly what singlet he was wearing. It said something on it. I didn't pay attention to it, but the first thought that was in my head, I was like, "That's sick, dude. I should have worn a singlet."
I mean, we'll get into this in a second, but were you a wrestler before, or are you just an appreciator for that kind of competition vibe?
Dude, I've never wrestled. Okay, so I can't say that. We had a coach at our gym in Gulf Shores who was an Olympic hopeful. So he taught us Greco, right? So I did that for about 8 months. But before that, I did absolutely no wrestling. And honestly, I'm still not good at wrestling at all.
Don't worry, you're not alone. There's a lot of us, especially in jiu-jitsu. A lot of us kind of get into this. I always famously have told people, I was like, I thought you had to be like really tough to be a wrestler, and you do. But I would always be like, yeah, I just don't have that in me. And now when I'm trying to learn it, and I'm so old, I'm just like, how does this work? Like, how does this work for an old person? They're like, oh, people just stop doing it at a certain point. I go, oh, okay. Well, that's when I'm starting, so that's good. But when you do see somebody wearing a singlet, that does probably put off some part of your spider sense, right? Like, that probably does start to alarm, like, all right, he might try this. Is that something that goes through your head, or do you already have enough familiarity with what he does? Because he also likes to play legs and mix it up a little bit.
So as soon as I saw him walk out with a singlet, I was like, okay, this is awesome. And also, he's probably going to try to take me down. So, so I kind of knew immediately.
And then how did that match go?
So the match started, we slapped hands, and then he just blast doubled the crap out of me, I think. Or pretty much, I was standing up, and then his forehead came forward, and he grabbed my leg. I couldn't remember if it was a single leg or not, and then I just ended up on my ass. And then I ended up getting, and I believe I had an underhook on his. It would be my right arm, so it would be his left leg. I ended up on his leg, and I was able to get underneath and secure outside ashi, and I got a heel hook, I'm pretty sure. So it was a relatively quick match.
Nice. So I just want to make it clear here. Was that built in, or is that just an instinctual reaction that you had once he was getting the takedown?
Yeah, it was pretty much instinctual. So I didn't really have time to set up any type of grips or get any type of like off balancing going. He just bolted into me. So like I saw his leg open up, so I just reached my arm underneath there and just pulled myself underneath. So it was pretty much instinctual. I didn't plan on doing that, so
fair.
Just kind of worked out.
I was just over at Boogie's gym for the very first time. I've never been there, and I'm in Southern California, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how have I never been here? And the whole time, Boogie himself is just like, yo, dog, I can't believe I'm actually dishonored that you would never come out this way. Like, it's actually like I'm mad at you, and I'm really pissed that you haven't come out this way yet. And I was like, why are you yelling at me when I'm rolling? Like, do the jokes when I'm not getting murdered by your students. And he points to this one new kid that they've got there, and you could tell he's just like, oh, I'm very excited for this guy. And I saw him, and I was like, yo, he's a wrestler. He looks real promising. and they start teaching him a couple things, and I was like, stop teaching him things. They're like, why? I was like, cause once he learns like one or two tricks, that's a wrap for me, dude.
Yeah, we're done here.
you teach them those one or two tricks as wrestlers, and goodbye advantages that we know as jiu-jitsu people. So no, I mean, especially once I saw him kind of working with the legs on him, and I was like, oh no, I need that. Oh, that's like my break in case of emergency file. Jesus, okay. So that happens. You end up doing a few things after that. So then we go straight into the next match. What is the next match like, sir?
So the next match, it was an 8-man bracket, so there was 3 guys. So the second guy was huge. Like, he was super big. He looked like a miniature Paul Harris. So he was like, his upper body was just solid. So I immediately I tried to tie up with him, right? I tried to look for like some collar ties and stuff, see if I can off balance him. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really pan out. And then I tried to get a 2-on-1, and he was already like, I don't know how long his first match was, but he was so soaking wet and greasy that like I grabbed it and he just slipped right out of my hand. I was like, okay. So I just sat, like, immediately. I was like, well, there's no grip. I'm just gonna sit. And then he literally dove on my head, and I managed to get underneath him, and then was able to get another heel hook. So that one was relatively quick as well.
Do you feel a little relieved when that happens? Because I always look at you guys when you're competing, and live by a sword, die by a sword, obviously, but there is a certain kind of help one feels whenever those matches go quickly on a day where you go, this could be a long day. So if you're getting those 2 heel hooks relatively quickly, you got to be feeling pretty good about your odds for the day.
Yeah, I mean, I've been known to go into overtime a time or two, so I'm not the most athletic person, so for me, like really, I just try to, when I strategize, I try to be as efficient as possible. I try to make sure that I'm off balancing and I'm not over exerting myself. Mm-hmm. So when I can do that and I can get a submission relatively quick, like, okay, I'm good. I have plenty of energy in the gas tank for whatever's coming next.
Mm. So are we now going into the finals, or do you have another match or 2?
Nope, it was just straight to the finals after that. So it was only 3 matches at that tournament.
Okay, so the first 2 were by heel hooks, and you go into it. What's the final match look like?
Okay, so the final match was against Joe Mungnai, I think that's how you say his last name. Yeah, he's super, super tall. He was like, I don't even know how tall he was. He was like 6'3", 6'4". He's a pretty tall guy. He had a pretty interesting strategy. When I was watching him go with other guys, he would lay on his back, and he was just like real, like, just like slow, and he literally stuck his leg out, like he was wanting people to dive on his legs. I guess he was like super comfortable there. I mean, Jason Rao's super, super good on the legs and stuff like that, so I'm sure he's pretty comfortable with it. But so I watched him go with a few other guys, and he took he managed to get on one guy's back and choke him, which is exactly where I didn't want to be because he was so long-limbed. It's like, yeah, we can't let him get here. And then the second guy, I think he fought Zach Edwards from Bethlehem, and he ended up hitting him with a calf crush. So I was like, okay, well, Sean was like, look, he's going to give you his leg. Just go in there and take it home with you. I was like, okay, all right, sounds good. So that's exactly, that was the plan. So what happened was I stepped inside, and my plan was to go to the inside for 411, go for the inside heel hook. And as I sat and I took his leg, his heel was sticking up on the outside. So I was in the wedge or the reaper, whatever you want to call it. And I dug for a bite on the heel, and like I watched him when he was with the other people that he was going with. They went in for outside heel hooks, and he didn't really flinch. And Sean was like, yeah, you got it. Like, go for it. You can get the break right there. So I went for it, and I started applying. And I guess it felt different from everybody else's. So he literally like exploded and dove on top of me. And he literally mounted me and put me in a body triangle from the mount, which I've never experienced before. Yeah, I was stuck underneath him for a while. It didn't like, it was like, it felt a lot better than someone being behind you with a body triangle, but
sure.
But I mean, it
no
was
one, no one prefers still being there though.
exactly, yeah. So I was there for a little bit. He tried to set up an Americana on my right arm, so I was just kind of bumping him off balance him a little bit and just keeping my elbow safe, my elbow, my shoulder, just bringing it back in. And eventually I managed to off balance him and we ended up in his close guard. And surprisingly, he just let me go. Like I was like, okay. He just let go of the guard and he started relaxing again. So this time I dove on his leg again. This time I got the left leg instead of the right leg. I'm pretty sure. And then from there, I dove on the inside. I got to the 411 and I was digging for the heel and he rolled super hard. I was trying to re-roll him and he was beating me to the angle and he got out a few times. I had a few bites, but it wasn't quite where it needed to be. And finally I got the last one and I beat him to the angle. I rolled, beat him to the angle, managed to get the bite, and we were kind of close to the wall. And I had my grip, I had my hip on the side of his knee, and he was holding onto my hands, and I was just inching my hips out until I finally got to the point where, like, all right, I feel like I can get a pretty decent break on this. And I started applying, and he was eating it for a minute, and then pretty sure his knee cracked, and then his foot sounded terrible. It was really bad.
No.
Yeah, it was gut wrenching, and then he tapped. So luckily, it didn't go any further than that. I felt pretty.
It's kind of okay.
Yeah.
I need a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never done this to anybody because I it's not in my composure, and I know that you're a nice kid, so I know that unless you get some sort of weird Ed Norton personality hiding behind, I don't think you take great pleasure in it. But can you describe what your first thought is when you hear those pops and you're kind of like what goes exactly through your head when that happens?
For me, it's like, oh God, that's gross. I hope he's all right. Like for me, once you get, when you're competing and there's stuff on the line, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I haven't competed on stuff like EBI. That's the goal. But definitely where there's some money involved or there's like some sort of like some sort of title, like people tend to let things go. So like you have to, it's either like you be too nice and they can take advantage of that, or you're just like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to. So, like, I definitely don't enjoy it, but I'm not afraid to do it. So it's like, like, I don't like it though. It definitely makes me feel weird. I'm like, oh, like you can feel it and it's super gross, but like, it's like, but I want to win, so I got.
I mean, it's difficult because I know we also condition athletes to be like, listen, you got to do your best, and know that they're out there and they're probably going to do the same to you. So there's very little way to say like, oh no, they're my friend. Like that doesn't really hold too much toward the end. However, it's more so just the sound, because I think everybody's okay until the sound happens. And I'm like right there photographing, so I'm usually mat side. And I've seen bad breaks, and I've had people ask me who are a little sadistic. They're like, "Can I see that photo?" And I was like, "No, ooh. I don't want to look at it." You know what I mean? And I've had people who, like, especially the athletes, because they're on such an adrenaline high that they don't know. They'll shout something in pain, but they'll be like, "Oh, my foot's going the other way now. Well, that's cool. All right. Well, I guess we should stop now. That was fun." I've seen a little bit of mixture of everything. So, does that mar any of the celebration? Do you feel pretty good? Do you have to think like, oh, maybe I should wait a day before I post something about it? Like, what goes through your mind? Because I know it's a little bit of sweet and sour. You're definitely excited that you won and you earned that, and that's hard work. But at the same point, I'm sure you probably are like, hey, dude, bro, you good, man?
Yeah, I always, after, like, if something like that happens, like, I'm immediately like, oh, like, holy crap, dude, are you all right? Like, can I help you up? Like, do I need to get you anything? Like usually, like, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, all right. But, I mean, I still think about it. I'm like, Jesus, man, like, it still freaks me out for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. like I was super excited that I won. It just sucks that sometimes it gets to that point where you're like, all right, like at the end of the day, it's what we're training to do.
Sure.
So like if somebody doesn't if they don't tap in time or they don't respect, that's just just the nature of it.
It's on the athlete as well. No, I get it, man. It's just, oh man, I don't envy seeing that live. But I will say this: you did win. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What goes through your mind once you're winning? Like, what did you win? Who gives you? Do they put a wreath around you? What do you win as well as the cash prize?
Okay, so I got the cash, and then I also got this pretty cool Sogi belt. It was pretty awesome. I don't have it with me. It's actually at the gym, but yeah, they
you don't have it with you now. You know,
no, I don't.
I'm just gonna say. I mean, we scheduled this, and I'm not gonna say that you're not like, I don't know, Nathan Orchard, who just had his Shugio little samurai warrior ready to go. I mean, that's fine if you don't want to have the belt and you want to give it to your school because it's the right thing to do. Whatever. No, but they put that around you. They give you the money. What is the first thing you're buying once you get the money, though?
The first thing I bought with the money. Oh, probably some beer. Probably beer for sure.
This is the best answer. No one ever tells me this honestly. Everybody always makes up some bullshit. Sometimes I've seen athletes be like, yeah, I bought my team something really nice. And I was like, I don't believe you. I believe the first thing you bought was something for yourself. Like, say food, say something fun or exciting. You said beer. Now, specifically, what kind of beer?
Are you asking specific brand or are you asking like type of beer?
Both.
Because, okay, so I got real New York pizza and beer, so that was pretty dope. And it was an IPA. I'm an IPA kind of guy.
You are an IPA. I have
yes.
it. I saw the facial hair and I said 50-50 shot here, an IPA guy. So let's go with that. The other thing I'm thinking to myself is, if you're an IPA guy, that means you've got good taste. You've got refined taste. What do you remember? Was it a specialized beer at the place you were at? Or was there one that you were like, no, I'm coming in and I'm getting this one?
Okay. So, yes, to answer your question, I do have a very distinguished palate. No, it was a local brewery. I don't remember the name.
Okay.
I don't specifically know. It was just any type of IPA. Like, okay, it's your local IPA. Let's go. Let's do it. It was pretty good. It was a light IPA, so it was very refreshing, and it wasn't too bitter. It was pretty good. I liked it.
Good for you, sir. See, this makes me very happy. I don't know that I'm a beer snob, but I do like, if I go somewhere, I do try to taste new beers, and I usually tell the person, I'm like, what is your best beer? Like, throw it at me now. Because I know what I want, but half the time I'm like, I always look at places, especially when I'm visiting, I go, I'm probably not coming back here. Let's just be real. Like, unless they bring me back out here, I'm not coming back. So, I always get people when I visited Texas, they were like, oh, when you come back, and I was like, I'm not coming back. Unless you guys bring me and fly me out here. I love you guys, but y'all expensive to come out this way. No, thank you. So I just tell people, I'm like, just give me your best. But I will say, and I don't know if this is where you go, but I always try to just take a photo of it, not to be part of the Instagram culture, but just so that I can like document before the drinking happens, like, oh, this was good. So when somebody asks me like, do you have a favorite? And I'm like, hold on, let me get my yes, it was in New York this week. Oh, that was so good. Oh yeah, that's the one to get. So yeah, that's a little hint from those. We've got Doreen McLean, who says, beer snob here. Doreen, let us know what your favorite beer is. So anyway, it sounds like an all-in-all pretty good trip, especially for being a last-minute replacement. And I know that you mentioned over here, we had a person chime in that I think you would enjoy. Sean Applegate just writes in, yes. So I think he enjoys hearing you talk about your stuff. When you said Sean, though, that was who was there. Sean Applegate, your coach, correct?
Yes, that's him. He's actually in the game room right now playing Call of Duty, probably cussing at the TV. So that's
that's that's a really funny visual to be like, oh yeah, no, Sean's just in the other room. And I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes I don't know who's here. Also, we got fire emojis being sent to us by Michael Hillebrand, who is a friend of the show and a friend of ours. So let's ask this dude. I always love to get into the deep dive. Where does jiu-jitsu begin for you, sir?
Okay, so jiu-jitsu started. This is an interesting one. So I started at an MMA school gym in 2010. So 2010, I was a freshman in high school. So I was like 14, and I started doing MMA. And they had a jiu-jitsu guy there. He claimed that he did jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure he did at some point. But he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt." So I took a couple classes from him, but like I didn't really. I mean, I learned how to do a triangle, and it was probably the worst triangle you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, it's super bad. Like, looking back on it, I was like, oh, that was awful. But I took a few lessons from here and there, and then I was just kind of in and out of training, just being a high school kid, and really couldn't necessarily afford it all the time. So like I would just get in there where I could. So I was in and out, and then Sean actually started teaching at this MMA gym in about 2012, right? So he was, he's got a pretty interesting story too. Like he's got a really cool story. But we were actually white belts at the same time, which is kind of crazy. So he was like 20, 21. And this was the point in time where he was like, I think I want to do jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life. I want to do it for a living. So he started actually coaching at this place, and he was getting guidance from Brandon McCatherine and Eddie himself. So like he was there training every day, teaching, wasn't really making any money at the time. But I was just kind of in and out, right? So he was doing that, and then eventually he got ranked, right? So I'm just in and out, and eventually one of my buddies that I go to school with was like, dude, like we need to go back up there, like let's go train. I was like, dude, let's freaking go. Like I don't, like at the time I didn't have a car, so he was like my only ride. I was like, dude, let's go, this is awesome. So like I started training a little bit again, and then eventually I just kind of found myself more of in the jiu-jitsu classes. Like I was like, man, I'm really terrible at this, like that's like this sucks. Like I was actually 240 pounds. Like I was huge, like super big kid, like, and not healthy either. Like it was just like straight garbage. Like I just eat garbage all the time. It was bad. But I started slowly drifting into jiu-jitsu. Like I was like, when I started out training, I was like, dude, I want to do MMA. Like this is awesome. And then like after getting punched in the face a good grip of times, I was like, I don't think I want to do that. And I just started training jiu-jitsu. And so I started training just jiu-jitsu with Sean since 2000, the end of 2012, the beginning of 2013. So, and I haven't left since. So.
That's good stuff. I like that. I always like to ask this of people because I think it's important to establish what connects us all. I think every grappler has a moment, especially the ones I get to talk to, where they fall in love with grappling. Where was yours? Do you have a specific class? Do you have a moment? Because it seems that you have a story that is similar to a lot of people's, which is, oh man, I realize how much I suck at this. And I don't know that people know how to put that into relative terms at their early part of their career, but they usually remember way better a moment where they said, oh, it clicks. Now I want to do this for real.
I don't really recall like the instant. Like there was never like, oh yeah, I'm finally getting the hang of this. Like it was just like, I don't know why. Just like I went from like, man, I'm really bad at this. Like I don't know, to like, and I just kept finding myself in the class. I just kept showing up, and I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. Like I was like 17, like 16 or 17. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do, and Like really, like there wasn't necessarily like a moment where I was just like, okay, this is it. Like it just, I don't know, it just happened. Like I don't know. I felt like maybe like it's what I wanted to do the whole time. I just didn't realize it, but like I don't. It's just strange. I know it sounds strange, but like I don't know. I just kept showing up to the class. Like I just kept going. Like something just kept making me want to go. Like it was all I would think about. Like
That's not necessarily unusual, but I would press just a little bit more to ask, like, was the quest to keep showing up to improve yourself, or were you competitive with others? Did you find a sense of, I'm sure, like, my personal journey was, I had competed for so many years in different things, in sports and in speech, and especially in speech, I fine-tuned my competitive style to being hyper obsessed with competing against myself. And so that's why I knew, I was like, oh, this jiu-jitsu thing is going to go well for me, because there's no real way to perfect this craft. So that search for a perfection is something that I'm going to chase forever, and that I enjoy that. For you, do you know what that drive was?
So as a kid, I had played baseball, football, basketball, soccer, all that stuff, right? So I've played sports and stuff, but I don't know why, but I always had this drive to do some sort of martial art as a kid. Like I'd see like karate or taekwondo. I was like, I want to do that. Like I want to do that stuff. Like that seems awesome. So and I never really did until like I was a teenager, and obviously like as I said before, I ended up in an MMA gym. But just the fact that like it was so uncomfortable, and like it was, but it was so fun at the same time. Like I was like, man, I don't know, like I just want to keep going. Like I just want to go back. Like I just gotta, like there was just something about it. And like, I've watched like some of the Stuart Cooper films on YouTube, like starting out, and watching like Metamoris when that was still a thing. I was like, man, like being a white belt, I was like, dude, I want to do that one day. Like that's what I want to do. Like I want to be like up there with those guys, like that. Like that's my goal. Like that's my dream. Like I don't know why, it just felt like, and like I was super bad too. Like obviously when you're a white belt, you're not very good, but like, man, I was pretty bad. I was a pretty bad white belt. Like I might have been the worst white belt. There's no telling.
Josh Singer actually put up this really interesting post the other day that's just like, you're not the worst guy in your gym. You may think you are, but more than likely everybody's battling their own demons. And the messaging is something that I was like, oh, that's really nice. The one thing I would say is I was like, but for time and all things considered, no, I'm pretty sure I can make an argument I'm actually the best. Or the worst.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the worst.
No.
Jesus Christ, I would never be the best. Whoa. That's the word. Like, that's not even a Freudian slip, because that's nowhere near the truth. I just know for sure, I was like, there's no way that I could walk into a gym and ever like look around and go, for the time that we all spend doing this, I should be better at this though, right? Like I'm here a lot and this is not getting better. So that's why when I saw that, I go, Josh, I believe you in principle, and I'm glad that you were inspiring other people, but like I'm pretty sure I can make a solid argument I'm the worst. But I think the point taken on it is supposed to be that it's really hard to have that perspective because we're all inside of our own heads. And so I'm pretty sure that even though you're saying right now, as compared to what you know now, it's so different. And I'm pretty sure there has to be a point when you have people like your Brandon McCatherines and your Sean Applegates that see something in you that immediately make you not the worst, because other people could be investing their time in just about anybody else. But obviously you have a great relationship with Sean, you have a great relationship with these good mentors. And the thing that I know as somebody who's helped and provided insight to people as they go forward is they have to exhibit something before you ever spend that time, whether it's persistence or a brain for it. But I mean, even from a young age, and I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with your stuff, but like I knew from the very beginning of when you were a thing of like, this man has good leg attacks. That's probably a problem for some people, and that's going to be a problem, especially in a bigger division where maybe some of the guys may not be as nimble to get out of it. because we get used to seeing like a Meow brother getting out and everybody goes, small people can't be heel hooked. It's just, it's too hard. Their legs are too short and they're too fast. No, they can't do it. So there's different types of strengths and minuses that I think we all find. So when you're doing this, when would you say, you said that you were infatuated by Metamoris, and you know, I've seen those posts with you as well. I'm intrigued though, when does the mode to compete kind of take over? Because you mentioned for Sean, he had a moment where he said he wants to do this full time, but you're not a slouch either. You're on a number of cards. You have high level competition experience as well now. But when did that start, and when did you know you wanted to make that a thing?
So let's see here. I had competed a handful of times at some local tournaments. I think just the fact that like I would go and I would get destroyed was just, so the first time I competed, this is actually a pretty funny story. First time I competed, I was like, I weighed in at like 238. Like, I'm a teenager. I'm like 16, I think. 16 or 17, something like that. And I go, and obviously like there was no teenager that's going to be 240 pounds. That, you know what I mean? Like, it's a small tournament. So it's like, yeah, dog, you're going into the adult division for sure. So I went into the men's like ultra heavyweight division. Sat on my butt. The dude dove on top of me. This dude was huge dude. There was two other guys in the division. Huge dude. He just dove on top of me. The only thing I knew was a lockdown, so I threw the lockdown in, and I just held him there for like 4.5 minutes. And then he eventually got out because my legs got tired, and he just he didn't even really have like a submission. He just crushed my face, and I tapped.
Yeah.
And I remember being like super, super exhausted. And I was like, Dad, I didn't even do anything. I'm tired. And like I get up and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up, like I'm dizzy, like I can't stand up straight. And then the ref was just like, hey, not to rush you or anything, but you got another match. And I was like, really? Like I know, like I thought, I was like, really? So he was like, yeah, he's kind of waiting on you or whatever. And this is where it gets interesting. And no knock on this guy at all. Like, it's super inspiring to see, but like, this the dude walks up, right, and he's huge, and he takes his prosthetic leg off and sits down, and I'm standing in front of him, right, like he starts on his butt, obviously, and I, you know what I mean, we slap hands and like bump knuckles, and the ref says go, and I'm just like slouching, like walking towards him, like like I'm exhausted, haven't even caught my breath yet. He literally grabs me by the wrist, yanks me to the floor, and throws me in an omoplata, and I didn't know how to get out, and he tapped me, just that, like it was, and I ended up getting third because there was only 3 of us in the division. So I was I was like, man, that was one of the most like crushing feelings ever. I was like, dude, I am terrible at this. And watching some of my friends compete, and they were like actually doing jiu-jitsu, and like they were like you know, they had some success, and they were like, a few of them won their divisions, you know what I mean? So like for me, I feel like it was in that moment where it was like, this, I've got to compete. Like, I've got to do this. Like I don't want that to happen ever again. Like, that felt terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And then like eventually, once I was able to have some sort of steady income, like once I graduated high school, I was like, all right, now this is like, I had it in my head that this is what I wanted to do, but I wasn't able to do it until I was able to graduate. But I started competing pretty early. Did some tournaments and stuff. Eventually lost about like 50, 60 pounds. So I was walking around about 195. What I'm walking at right now. I actually had to take a hiatus from training because I couldn't afford it. Sean was like, bro, like, don't even worry about it. Like, we'll work something out. Like, you can clean the mats or whatever. Like, you don't, you know what I mean? I was like, but to me, like, I was like, man, I don't want to like, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I want to pay for it. Like, I want to make sure that I'm good for it. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy that just doesn't pay, like, you know what I mean? Have to talk to him all the time about paying his dues. I was like, all right, well, you know what I mean? I opted to just like, I was like, all right, I'm just going to wait. So during the summer, I got a summer job, tried to make sure that I ate super healthy, and then tried to exercise a lot more. In the meantime, I was like, and then when I go back to jiu-jitsu, I'm going to be in better shape. Like, so that's what I did. And I came back, and like I definitely moved a lot easier for sure. Like, it definitely felt better being a lot lighter. And after that, I didn't take any time off. Like, I wasn't able to train full time until about 2014. But yeah, so I guess that's my idea of where it all started as far as like competing and stuff like that.
It's interesting you mention that sort of stuff, because I think the hard part about jiu-jitsu that people sometimes forget is, especially when they have a competitive background or they go to compete a lot, that these inspirational tales always have a flip side. So that anytime you see somebody on a podium that writes this like luscious thing about, I've overcome so much adversity and I just want to thank all my friends, all I could ever think about when I read those sometimes and I see the other two people on the podium is, I go, this is where villains are made, though. Like, when I see the other two persons and I see this hero journey of being like, I did it, I always think the second place person is like, this is my Marvel hero backstory. This is where I become a villain now. Because I've always, like, it's impossible to compete without the yin and the yang. So everybody sometimes forgets they're a highlight reel for somebody else. That, you know, it comes and it goes. I have some people when I'm taking photographs who go, you only take photos of me when I'm losing. And I'm like, well, then win. Like, I'm not in charge of that. Don't come at me. I was like, they just don't remember the great shots that you get of them winning, because they're trained. They can only see some things from their own perspective. But I'll literally be able to show them on my phone. I'll be like, I have like 20 photos of you winning, but you only remember the ones you lose. That's why you're a competitor, because you want to beat this one, but you forget about these. These are nice, but, you know, these are the ones you remember. And so it's funny that you mentioned that your hero story, of course, starts by being like, man, I realized I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I like that you preface it by being like, no disrespect to that dude, but it was just more amplified where you said, man, how far do I have to go to get where I need to be? And I think that that's kind of the recognition. And I think that's what's indicative of what makes somebody succeed in the long term. So that's why I always tell people, I'm like, don't worry about what photos I'm taking of you or not. Just concentrate on the journey and just know that there's no way that one person looks amazingly good and another person doesn't always look great as well. Like, it's a 2-bit process. We did get a couple notes in here. Doreen McLean says, Left Coast, Great White is my favorite, but any hef or wit is usually good too. Do you have a favorite beer, and if so, what is it?
Okay, so this is where it gets pretty serious.
Oh,
so
okay.
Here in Atlanta, and I'll put my money. I'll bet my money. Like, I'll bet everything I have in my account, which is probably not very much. We're not going to take a look at that. But I'll put everything I have in my account to say that the local brewery we have here, Scofflaw Brewing, they have the single best IPAs in existence. I mean, I don't know exactly which one is my favorite because they have so many, but like, they specialize in IPAs, and I'm willing to put money on it that they make the best beer. They make the best beer. If you like IPA, they like, and if you don't like IPA and you drink one of these, you're like, I think I'm an IPA guy now. I think I like it. So,
when did you make the switch to IPAs, or when did you become enlightened, I guess is a better way of saying it?
Okay, so Sean, and this is going to sound, but Sean is always, since I've known him, he's a little bit older than me. He's about 6 years older than me or whatever. But he had always drank like IPA. Like, he was like, somebody introduced him to IPA, and like, he had been on that for a while. So like, I was like, you know what? Of course, when I got of age, you know, okay.
Yeah, of course. The feds are watching this one. You're good.
Right. I started to gravitate towards it. You know what I mean? Like, I started to gravitate towards it. And like at first I was like, this stuff is weird. Tastes like soap. And then eventually it just got to the point where I was like, I think I want one. And then you try it and like, you're just like, you know what? This is pretty good. I like it. I like it a lot. And then yeah, sometime later we end up in Atlanta and I get introduced to this beer and I was like, this is it. This trumps everything. I don't think anybody can beat this at all. So I don't know.
Okay. I'll tell you, I know mine is a little bit similar but different. Just to give you an idea, I used to work at The Tonight Show, and I used to work for Leno. Leno would bring a different car to work every day. He has that many cars that he could actually bring a different car to work. Now, people would look at me and they'd be like, look at this amazing car. And I'd go, that's nice. And they go, you aren't impressed by it? I was like, that's a rich person's hobby. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm never going to own those cars, so why am I going to look at it and just be like, oh my god, I want that car? No, it's expensive, and he gets them for free sometimes, because car people want him to be associated with their car. If someone came up to me and gave me a free car, you better believe I'd be like, well, the carburetor here is unique. It was made in 1950, and one of the beautiful parts about this. So I had told people when they're like, well, how'd you get into craft beers? What did you like about them? I was like, well, I wasn't in college. It was whatever was available and cheap. And it's not like I would have an IPA and be like, this is garbage. I'd be like, I can't afford this. No, thank you. So that once I actually got out of college and I like got it, your big kid jobs, I'd be like, tell me more about these IPAs. And they'd be like, really? You're into IPAs now? I was like, no, I can afford them now. Because when I used to get drunk in Kentucky, when I lived out there for a while and I lived in Illinois, as a college student, if somebody says it's $1 per beer, I'm like, I don't care what it is, just give me. Thank you. But then all of a sudden I come back to LA and they're like, that's going to be $10 for a Bud Light. And I was like, you're out of your mind. That's insane. Then you better give me a best IPA you've got on brand, because that's stupid. So anyway, long story short, I will put you on the list now, sir, of a show that I will eventually get off the air. But I have a belief that I want to take people who have competed against each other, and I've done this, but I sit them down after they compete. Could be right after, could be months after, usually a big epic match. And we just have beers and we talk about their match. We actually get them to talk honestly about, like, oh, I thought you were going to pull guard here and just kick it back there. So we're calling it interbrews as a little selected area on here. But it's definitely something that I've told. I've actually had one person that said, I don't want money, just give me good beer after, and I'll do a super fight for you. And I'm like, I was going to get you money, dude. Like, and he's like, no, just give me good beer. And I'm like, oh, it better be really good beer then. So you are now on the short list to be on that show. A couple more questions that we got here. So this one's a comment. This one's from Christopher McConnell, who says, that's a good-looking dude right there. Okay. Do you have anything you would like to say back to Christopher? Or are you just going to agree? And do we know that it's you or me? Because, I mean, listen, I know you're the guest, but, like, it wasn't specific, so.
Tell him I love him.
Very sweet. Jordan Blackmon says here, and I can't tell the difference. It says, shh, dude, but I can't tell if he means, suh, dude. So I couldn't tell if you were talking about something you weren't supposed to talk about, or you just wanted to say hello.
He definitely.
What did he say shh for? What is shh for?
I think he probably meant to say "saw, dude." He says that to me every day he sees me. We train together, so.
I mean, if you're familiar with Getter and all the guys from the Real Bros of Orange County or Simi Valley, there are these gentlemen who made the "saw, dude." So, I love those guys. They're amazing. But he asks an important question here, and I really need your honest answer, because Jordan wouldn't ask this for any reason without it being a good one. Who is the most attractive person you train with?
The most attractive person I train with? Man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I'm going to have to say my man Seth Caldwell. He's a UPS driver. He's in his 40s, but he's a good-looking guy. He gets a lot of attention from the ladies, and I approve.
Question from Doreen. Doreen, you actually have a legitimate question. I appreciate you for this. Doreen's question is, what do you think about testing for high-level grapplers? I personally think any black belt that competes should be tested for juicing. What's your opinion?
Let's see here. What is my opinion? Honestly, I think...
Well, walk me through your thought process here, because you're weighing some sort of balance between the two. Can you see both sides of the argument is where you're going here?
Yeah, I can see it. I'm part of the Natty Squad, Swole. But honestly, I think people do a lot of training, right? And I feel like it's not necessarily something that they use to like, oh, I want to get an upper hand. Like, I want to be stronger. I want to be fat. Of course, there's going to be situations like that. But I feel like a lot of people use it for recovery. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like they use it. And they're like, well, I can get more out of it while I'm still competing. I don't want my body to like fail on me when I'm in these camps. You know what I mean? I want to get more out of it. I want to be able to recover better. I want to be able to, you know what I mean? Compete more. So, to me, I don't feel like it matters too much. Like, I don't do it, but I'm not going to discourage anybody else. Like, not saying that I'm like, yeah, dude, you should do steroids. That sounds great. But,
right.
If you're willing to do it, then like, good for you, I guess. I don't know.
Do you feel like maybe there needs to be, because I feel the fairness issue is something that people talk about. Would you be open to there being the, like, congratulations to the 165 anything goes division and the 165 natty division?
Should they separate? For me, I feel like no, they shouldn't separate it. I don't think.
Because here's where we're getting right now. We had a very real problem come up at ADCC where pink eye was prevalent. Now, you have some people who go, it's just pink eye. You're fine. You get over it. And then those people couldn't do seminars. It takes away their training, and your training is your livelihood if you're an athlete. So I understand that. Of course, you just have to recover. It's just a bitch. No one really wants to go ahead and do any of that sort of a thing. But the primary question that I think they were posing from some of the athletes who were effective was, well, shouldn't there be a stop to it? And you think to yourself, are you really going to move around an entire tournament to do that? So I had proposed, for those who were worried about having the eye infections, why not have the anything goes ADCC bracket? Bring your steroids, bring your inhalers, bring everything you got. If you got, bring steroids, but bring some for the whole class if you would, guys. That would be great. Because over this weekend, maybe we'll cut to this in a second, but we had a real life problem with Greg Hardy, and people were talking about Greg Hardy using a inhaler and how that's not legal. And people think to themselves, especially if those who use inhalers go, what do you mean that's not legal? And they're saying, well, like, you wouldn't just put TRT in somebody's leg if it was messed up. So there's a weird equivalency between these that the one thing I did tell people was, listen, I think that's a real discussion to have. I just think it's shitty it has to be based around Greg Hardy because, as my co-host Kevin Phillips said ever so eloquently, Google Greg Hardy and you'll probably be rooting for the asthma. So I think that's something to note. We're going to start to wind down a little bit here, but I do want to get in a couple last questions for you, and thank you for answering that, and thank you, Doreen, for the question. What has changed most, I think, in your day-to-day for your grappling in those years? You mentioned starting, really, really taking it seriously, deeply, back in like 2012, 2013, 2014 was when it was really solidified. But what do you feel has changed the most? Because it seems like you've always had a good attitude in terms of wanting to put in the work and show up. But what has changed?
What has changed since then? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. So what has changed since then is the amount I've trained, right? So at some maybe 2015, I think, maybe something like that, I started training twice a day. So I started like training like full time, right? So like I was there from sun up to sundown, right? I would do 2 to 3 classes a day, and then taking Sunday off and stuff like that. And then I would say training with a purpose, like coming in every day and be like, okay, well, today I'm going to work on this. I'm really bad at this. So I want to work on this. Or if I'm in camp for something, it would be, okay, Sean will sit down and like strategize with me, like, okay, so for this tournament, this is what we're going to do, right? So we're just going to dial in this specific part of the system that we're working, and we're going to refine it, and we're going to, you know what I mean? So I want you to roll with these people, and I want you to try to do this thing and stuff like that. So really just coming in and having a goal in mind in training, and not just showing up like, all right, I wonder what I'm going to learn today. You know what I mean? Or like, all right, we'll see what happens in rolling. Like, it's going to be the consistency and the way that I'm training, right? So not necessarily like, you know, like not necessarily rolling like super, super hard all the time. Like, yeah, we got to fight. We got to do this. It's just about strategizing and like wanting to come in with a goal and wanting to get better that specific day and like fine tune my game. So, and then of course, like trying to eat better. Haven't been doing a very good job of that lately. So,
well, I mean, hey, listen, dude, it sounds though that you have made a really, really solid transformation. I mean, you see it in your body, you see it in your movement. A lot of people who do lose the weight don't always have that kind of fluid movement. So I think you've been doing it in a very good way. And I think it's funny because we mentioned, you know, these IPAs and these craft beers, and I don't know if people really realize that when you dedicate as much time as you do to not just jiu-jitsu, but to really, really being committed to a diet that helps you to lose that weight, those IPAs and those pizzas are your reward for those hard work. So, you know, I give shit to some of these guys who just have natural metabolism because I'm like, you can go fuck yourself. That's different. The rest of us are like, you know, I tell people, they're like, Raph, why do you train so hard? You're not really competing and all that. I was like, no, I don't. I eat because Fatty's got to get some weight off so that he can go enjoy a nice beer as well. And I'm like, I have a comfortable level I like being at, and I like knowing if I'm going to eat a fuck ton of sushi that I'm not going to die, that I'll be in a good place and that I'm there. Well, I think that is good. Training with purposes, I think, is a super great thing to see, man. And obviously, you're doing great. I love seeing you compete at all of these major things. Obviously, Sogi was a big day for you, but then I can't forget about BJJ Fanatics and all these other places that you've been popping up. And you know, I have an appreciation for what you do, and I'm always excited to be able to get to chat to somebody who I go, hey, man, we are paying attention. We are seeing what you're doing. So I hope that you know that we are happy to see you get out there, and you have a lot of support. So I appreciate that. You know that. So let me ask you this, dude. If people are looking to follow you on Instagram and the social medias, where do they need to go follow you, sir?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am Chase 10th Planet. So it's CHASE 10TH Planet. And I have Facebook, so you literally just type in Chase Hanna, and then you just look for that right there, and then you'll be able to find me.
The most wacky ending I've seen in a bit. Chase, it is a pleasure to get to talk with you, sir. I'm really glad that we were able to do this. When you come out to LA, I will do my best to find a time to get a craft beer with you, sir, because now that I know you're amongst us, I think I'm gonna get a lot of good people together who just like good IPAs, and
yes.
You know, have a nice little group together that I'm gonna be like, listen, this is the crew of people whose beer taste I respect. The rest of you go out somewhere else. I don't care. Whatever. You won.
Go
Gary
get some
Conan.
Heinekens.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I won't say this. Let me rephrase this. In the future, if one of these people beer sponsors this show, I take umbrage with you saying Heineken is bad if you pay me. Heineken, wink. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, I always love, I saw Brian Ortega at one of the EBIs and the Combat Jiu-Jitsus, and all I could think of was Modelo! And it was like, he's an accomplished fighter, but I could just hear, like, Brian Ortega was given a choice by coach, and I was like, no, don't do that to him. He's so nice. Anyway, Chase, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Big congrats on Sogi, and continued success to you, sir. Thank you for coming on the show today. We very much appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm pretty blown away that you guys wanted to interview me, so I'm pretty stoked. I appreciate it a lot.
You should not be, because I think it is a customary thing that should happen at all the major tournaments throughout there. And the hard part is everybody thinks that just because you live in a different region, we aren't paying attention. But I know Chris puts together a good tournament. I know some of the competitors who were in that one. And for me, if I was there, I'd be interviewing you there. So because I'm not there, I always try to provide that as an opportunity for you to get to say something. Because I think it sucks when athletes win and they go, money, belt, cool. And then you look around, you go, nobody wants to talk to me? All right, well, bye, everybody. I just think it's so anticlimactic. Anyway, my friend, we will be talking with you again soon, I'm sure. Let's say this real quick. You guys, if you are tuning in, we will be back after these commercial messages with one Kyle Chambers. Sit around. Don't move anywhere. And ladies and gents, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in just about a few minutes.
This is where it all goes down. This is where we end it.
This isn't where it all goes down. There's also a map. You have to say to him, I want you to look him dead in the eyes, and I want you to tell him what you would say to somebody if you were fighting him right now.
You're gonna die.
It's about who wants it more. That's what this is coming down to.
We gotta have a rematch. Yeah,
CJJ Wilson.
I didn't expect that we would get two competitors to play the video game console against one another, but not only did they bring it on that video game console, but their match was straight fire. There was a series of exchanges between the two that kept the crowd elevated and excited throughout. You see, there was a lot of great escapes by Ronnie. We went back and forth, oscillating between standing on the feet and getting some wrestling, and then doing some great work from guard. I thought they were very evenly matched, and it proved to be quite a fun experiment, especially here. You're going to try and pull off a twister in front of a 10th Planet crowd? You better not. And he didn't. I mean, Ronnie was able to get out of it, which then took them to overtime periods. The first period of overtime saw Ronnie start to work the offensive. However, JJ was able to get out in a short amount of time. Pressure's on Ronnie to go ahead and make some escapes, and he's doing a good job here. However, JJ does an impeccable job keeping that grip to secure an armbar finish here at the bottom of the first period of overtime. Now, at this point, I'm figuring I should go try and get the two of them together to go ahead and settle this, because Ronnie won the first game of Marvel vs. Capcom. JJ won the match, but the two of them agree right then and right there. They want to settle it with one more round of Marvel vs. Capcom. And that brings us to now.
Yeah, it's the rematch.
The rematch.
We won it once. This is the championship. We won it once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what happened. Who knew that we had two gentlemen that were going to be facing each other a little bit later? So you already saw the first match. Then the second match happened on the mats. Now both of them, I don't know why are both of your shirts off?
Well, he ripped mine. And grabbed his and ripped it.
I just realized I've never facilitated a video game playoff where both guys are like, "Yo, bro, let's go, let's go."
And we're playing again, and poof, I was like, "Oh shit, this is real now."
Okay. Well, where are we at? Is it 1-1 now?
Yes.
We won it
So
once.
you won that one, you won this, and this is the tiebreaker.
This is the tiebreaker.
So what are you guys gonna play? Are you going back to
We
Street
should
Fighter?
go back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, the same one.
Same
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the only way
He's
to do
got
it.
to pick the same people.
So was
It was Marvel versus Capcom.
It was Marvel versus
versus Capcom.
Yeah.
You both know what it is. So
was
here's what
Marvel.
the thing is. I'm gonna step out of frame, gentlemen. This is for all the marbles, and I mean, we don't have money, so literally marbles. Is what this is about. We don't have these fancy checks,
add to
and
my
if we
collection.
did, we wouldn't leave them backstage like some people.
That's where they're all at, man.
All right, gentlemen, good luck.
Let's do it. All right. This is the rematch of matches, of all matches.
I need to figure out how to do those range attacks, man.
Yeah, it's this middle one right here, this top one. For Mega Man, that's what the cannon is. All right, I am going to go.
Oh, it's this guy. I remember this guy.
I got to start, yeah.
Would you have
This
preferred
guy-
he been this helpful to you midway through the match when he was trying to take you down and be like, yo, dog, this is how you finish this? And combate. All right, Mega Man comes in with the first attack right now. This is the best part.
I figured it out, man.
17 hit? What the hell, dude? Oh my god. You are lucky.
Oh, shit! Out of game.
Damn, okay, he's got the secret hacks right now.
I got the secret.
Oh shit! He pile drived him with a spinning pile driver. I saw him try to do that in the match and it didn't go. Oh, it's a 17-24 hit.
My goodness.
Oh my goodness. Okay, he's already taken
Oh,
it.
no!
Now we got Wolverine coming in.
shit, I missed!
Didn't do much. However, War Machine is coming back with a 7 hit right now.
Oh no, I'm gonna lose! Oh,
Where did he go?
Not again!
Wolverine
Not again!
is looking weak right now. Can he make a comeback?
Yeah, there we go! Oh god damn it!
That was intense. Guys, come back over here. Okay. This is the most intense thing I've ever seen. Gentlemen, first of all, great exhibition of sportsmanship on both fights. Explain to me what you're feeling right now, man.
Disappointment.
Kick my ass in real life. Disappointed. I gotta be honest with you. Which is more extreme? Feeling euphoric from winning the match or feeling disappointed from winning the tiebreaker?
Losing the title.
Losing the tiebreaker.
I can't.
Yeah, no, dude. Okay, now talk to me. Do you feel like you redeemed yourself right now?
No.
You know,
Even in the first game, I was like, shit, if I win this, I'm going to jinx myself in the real match. I'm going to think I got it in the bag. That one Marvel versus...
I gotta be honest, did that change anything for you guys out there? When you were out there? Because I saw you guys both kind of like bump fists.
giggle,
Like,
yeah.
You had already done that.
I told him,
Obviously
I go, get the rematch right now. Let's get the rematch.
I like that because I walked over on top of you and I looked at each other. We're like, oh, we should group them together. Oh, they've already found each other.
Yeah.
Oh, they've already rematched each other. Well, gentlemen, I want to say thank you both for being the first individuals. You are both so goddamn sweaty. That's a lot of human sweat. No, I know you're down. I'm just letting you know. In the future, when you look back at this, people are going to be like, how did this happen? And why the hell?
And
did
the
this
Marvel
happen
vs.
like that?
Capcom game.
In a Marvel vs. Capcom situation where it's a rematch of in-game and out-of-game real life, but we're going back to in-game. We had to have the shirts on for our in real life battle, but this time
We didn't have to.
This time it was all the marbles, right? All the fucking. He said, I said, it's game time.
Riley,
good, yeah.
you have an undefeated record here. We're gonna have to find somebody for you to take on. JJ, you've got a fight coming up on October 4th,
Yes,
correct?
dude.
Very much looking forward to that.
Good luck,
This is what it's all about.
man.
This great competitive sportsmanship. You know, you guys compete, and then you're rooting for him on October 4th, which is gonna be
sure.
great. We always love seeing you, so that's gonna be on Bellator. Be sure to watch that. My thanks to both of these gentlemen, JJ, Ronnie. You guys are the best. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ref.
Oh, man.
I won't get too much of that. JJ, good ass day, man. Absolutely.
It's fun. I needed it. That was rad.
All right, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that replay of our good friends Ryan LaBella and JJ Wilson attacking each other not just in combat at Ultimate Mat Warriors, but also in video game form. And then I think they were kind of combating each other in friendship. They're too nice. I don't enjoy it. And I gotta yell it. It's not just one LaBella that's a problem. The junior LaBella, little Mikey, he's competing at Baddest Blue about a week ago, taking some photos. I look around and I see this kid smile at me while he's competing, and I'm taking a photo and I'm like, no, concentrate at the matter at hand, Mikey. Don't smile at me. So listen, the kids, the Blubellas, love them. They're very nice and sweet, blah, blah, blah. That's not what's important here, people. What I've got today for you is we've just talked with Chase Hanna, who won the Sogi Invitational, but I decided that, I got to bring on the person who won the combat jiu-jitsu qualifiers over the weekend because I have a few questions. Number one, this person's already competed at combat jiu-jitsu, so the fact that he had to win a qualifiers to me says, wait, what? This man has, he should just, is there a fast pass we could give him? Because he's kind of good, and I think he's done this before. So I wanted to get the full story. I've invited him on the show. Obviously, he's a beast, but he's a super nice individual. We welcome back to the show, after a year, our good friend, Kyle Chambers. Sir, how you doing today, man?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, pleasure to have you, man. When they come up to you and they say, all right, man, it is time for you to do the combat jiu-jitsu qualifiers, do you just say, like, could you, I mean, I've done it, dude. Like, I'm good. Can we, like, I got places to be, dog.
So what originally happened was that Master Eddie actually hit me up maybe a week or two before that, but I had a prior obligation. I had a super fight in Oregon the last week of November, so it's that same week as EBI, and I already, basically signed the contract. They already booked my flight, hotel, all that stuff. So I was like, respectfully, I have to decline just because I have obligations. I don't like to turn down opportunities, but I'm already kind of committed to that. It was before I even knew. And then, unfortunately, he backed out, so then they wanted to save that for another date. So immediately, I hit up Master Eddie, like, Master Eddie, like, if the opportunity's still there, I would love to have represent my team. I'm sorry I had to say no the first time, but, I was trying to be on it. But what ended up happening, he said that I have a guaranteed alternate match, but since he kind of guaranteed the qualifiers for that open spot, he had to be true to his word. So, like, I totally understood. So he gave me an option, alternate match guaranteed or get my spot back. So me, I'm just like, I just want my spot back. It's initially mine anyway. So, it's just unfortunate how things happen. So I told him I wanted to do trials. And then so I woke up the next morning and I got the text saying, okay, perfect. Trials is tomorrow. And I'm like, I was bulking for my match next month. Now I'm about 15 pounds overweight because I'm trying to bulk back under. So I was weighing around like 199 the day before, but I get the text message. So it was like Saturday, qualifiers Sunday. I get the text message. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'll make it happen, Master Eddie, So I ended up, going to qualifiers, 24-hour fast, losing 14 pounds. 1 day notice, and end up having to compete for my spot in the qualifiers.
Okay. We got to talk about this 14 pounds because I saw that and I knew you did it on 1 day's notice, but have you ever lost this much weight in one period of time? I know you've been competing. I know you've been an athlete for years. Is this one of the biggest weight cuts you've ever had to do?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes with a good jiu-jitsu workout, we a lot of times, especially freaks, we train 2 or 3 times a day. So a lot of times you might lose 6 to 7 pounds, maybe even 4 to 5 pounds in one weight, in one workout session. But it's different when you already don't have that much to lose, So after the first, I got that text message Saturday morning, and so instantly I weighed myself, and I had to teach class at noon, so I weighed myself before class. And I was 199, exactly what I thought I was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a rough cut for tomorrow. So I actually closed all the doors, turned on the heater, ended up just picking up the intensity. I ended up losing 6 pounds there and had to do a bunch of extra credit afterwards. But definitely my hardest cut by far because I think the other cut before that was like maybe 8 pounds at most. But this is ridiculous, especially that I don't have that much fat on my body already. So, yeah, it was definitely my hardest cut yet.
When you think about fasting, do you realize, like, is that just where you go, well, if I'm going to lose this much weight, I really can't eat. That's the way it's got to be because of the limited options for that. And what do you do during that fasting? Because I know that sometimes I just accidentally eat. And when I say accidentally eat, I could be working on something. I'm like, where did this come from? Why do I have this here? And it's just mostly because sometimes I'm just stuck doing something where I'm like, no, I got to keep eating and I got to at least be somewhat fed if I'm really hyper focused on something. For you, where does that come from? And when did you have that realization?
I feel like fasting kind of comes easy to me, kind of just because I'm such a morning person anyway. I open the gym every morning at 6 a.m., 6 to 12, and I train at 12 to 2. So a lot of times I'm so active anyway. My mind is really busy. I don't really have to think about food or water or anything like that, And after the first workout, that's when I started getting my appetite. I've never really been a big breakfast person. I love breakfast food. I can have breakfast any time of the day, don't get me wrong. But I've never been like a person to wake up, like, I need this right now. I need to have this. So I naturally kind of fast already for, let's say, 12 hours normally, but it's different when you have to do it for 24 hours and you constantly, like you said, that subconscious, like, we like the game sometimes, so it's sometimes, that subconscious, you want to drink something or eat something, so just to turn off that switch, it's really hard, especially that initial couple hours. But I feel like with anything, with a little bit of training, it gets easier.
That's fair. And honestly, I actually do very much relate to that because I consistently tell people, you just revealed like my two biggest weight loss tricks, which is one, I just train a whole bunch, and two, I usually, like, when people talked about intermittent fasting, I was like, oh, I would never do that. And then I look down and I go, wait, I kind of do, because when I wake up, I don't eat before I train because I don't want to feel sluggish or dumb. And then by the time if I do a double training, sometimes I'm like, it is 2 p.m. before I eat. Oh my God, I've been doing it. Then I started realizing, I was like, that's how I lost those 5 pounds. It was like, and I tell people, they're like, oh, what's your weight at right now? And I was like, well, right now it's here, but in probably about 5 hours, it'll go right back up. And they're like, yeah, I was like, because I'm hungry. I'm going to eat like a regular person after that. But it is a really good way. I found that if you really are trying to like level it back down, especially after vacation, it really helps me get there. I've never had to compete at a combat jiu-jitsu qualifier the next day. So that's an important thing I think people should know. And clearly you made the weight, so that was awesome. Does it feel interesting to be qualifying for it in the sense that you have the experience? You guys aren't, is it slaps on this one or strikes that you guys allow for the qualifiers? It's just straight up regular kind of like an EBI tournament, right?
Yes, correct. So since we're all teammates, we don't have any slaps, just purely jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Okay. Because I wondered that the first time when they said, I'm going to do combat jiu-jitsu qualifiers. I think one of the first times I heard it, I was like, why? Y'all going to slap each other and then 3 weeks later you're going to slap each other some more? And then somebody told me, they're like, we don't do that, dog. I was like, oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I just thought, like, what a great pleasure to do. It'd be like, hey, before I go to the main dance, everybody just slap me around a few times just so I can feel good about myself and start bleeding there. What made it, obviously when something changed and you're one of the guys who is a very active competitor for 10th Planet, but for you, I had a real big question of like, what makes you want to go back to this dance? Like, what makes you want to go back to combat jiu-jitsu, specifically this one coming up over in Mexico?
I just like the challenge, to be honest, of combat jiu-jitsu. Besides just the format of having like the best in the world go against each other, I like the real life scenario. Like, how does my jiu-jitsu work when strikes are involved? Like if I'm in the street, will my jiu-jitsu be effective? There's only one way to kind of show that. I don't want to go against a random person and just pick a fight with them. But I would love to see how my jiu-jitsu does against another killer when we throw strikes. So I feel like I'm always up for the challenge. I feel like with combat jiu-jitsu, especially being in 10th Planet, our jiu-jitsu, our foundation is based around like MMA. So it feels really comfortable anyway. So I'm just really looking for the competition. And like, I love being a part of like the international kind of tour. I feel like it's like one of the only, I think it's first time combat jiu-jitsu is in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So I just like kind of be a part of like first ever, first combat jiu-jitsu 185 middleweight, first CJJ in Monterey, I just saw like those first setting trends like that.
Have you competed internationally for jiu-jitsu yet? I couldn't remember if you had or had not.
No, this would actually be the first time.
Dude,
yeah.
But that's how weird it is to me when I'm like racking my brain. I go, I don't think he has, but he feels like he should have already by now. And so I think that's a good place to be. But I seriously, I comb back through your social media. I was like, has he been international? I was like, oh, dope. I mean, granted, it's down south in the border, but it's a different vibe. Just like every different state is a different microculture. Going international is where I think you start to feel a little bit more like, oh, now I'm a professional athlete in this way. Because the weirdest part about our sport is, our national or our world tournament was in Long Beach, and it's like, I was asking people then, I was like, I go to Long Beach every other day. Like, okay, cool. Super prestigious, but like for me, it's always like, you grow up watching the athletes in the Olympics, going to different countries, different places, different environments, and you see that. So for me, I just think for you, like, got to be a great opportunity. Having said that, different climate, different culture. Has that been built into the training prep just in anticipation for the possibility of competing there?
Absolutely. I feel like it's not my first time in a foreign. Like, I've been outside the country, never competed outside the country, but it's not my first time in a foreign environment. So, altitude is not really a problem because I did train. I was actually graduated at NAU. So, we were at 7,000 feet. So, elevation is a factor. That's not going to really be a problem. Of course, you need to get acclimated and go a couple days early. But I feel like every competition, you got to deal with outside factors. It's not really a big thing. You always got to deal with outside forces, other teams yelling at you, Only thing you're missing is people throwing stuff on the crowds, But pretty much you always got to deal with that. But it's always that mental battle with yourself. It's always going to be that inner battle with yourself, no matter where you're at, if it's in the United States or international.
Obviously, and I think that's a good point to bring up, which is be ready, stay ready kind of a mentality. But I just think of it like this. I've seen a Cain Velasquez just be like, oh, God, why is their card? Why are we so high? And I think it is something to take it into consideration. And I obviously know this is a different climate than that. But for me, I guess the part of it that's interesting is look at it like this. I saw you guys, and when I say you guys, I mean a number of these 10th Planet generals, all doing some weird photo shoot in black and white. And I just look at you guys and I was like, what are you guys up to? What is this? And I told you off air, I messaged PJ and I was like, yo, this looks badass. And he's like, oh, it is. Just wait until you see it. So I know you really can't talk too much about it, but what can you tell us about that experience? I believe it's called, what is it, the Gentle Art?
Correct. So right now, actually in about a week, it's actually dropping. A couple of the, like you said, 10 Planet generals, some of the higher belts are actually part of a short film that actually Ash, Thorpe, and Felix is kind of put together. Comes about a week apart. A week from today, I believe. Gentle Art, Jiu-jitsu film, us rolling, different. It's hard to explain. I don't want to give up too much. I just want to have you guys experience it first off, but it's just really amazing. The angles, man, the feel of it. Even if you never did jiu-jitsu before, I feel like you can feel the intensity, the vibe, the energy. So really exciting stuff. You can see the action frame, the slow motion, so much. Just stay tuned.
I'll put it to you this way. I'm a TV guy. I've worked in TV. I kind of always appreciate when there's higher production on anything. But when I saw, even on your Instagram stories, just like the little behind the scenes stuff, and I was like, that's a good setup. Okay. And then I was like, oh, they're going stylized black and white. Okay, cool. Yeah, those look pretty dope. But I saw some of those shots and I was just like, I don't know what this is, but all right. Well done, gents. I'm interest peaked. I want to see what it is. And obviously, like, what's so great is I always tell people, it's kind of what I told Phil, who put together the Shugyo, is I was like, I know some things, but I don't want to know it all. I just want to experience it. And so I had some of the athletes from Shugyo who were like, hey, Raph, I'm competing. I was like, no. And they'll be like, why? Well, like, because you're inadvertently telling me something. Like, I just want to experience it. And I feel like that's kind of the vibe I got off that. Like, it wasn't me being like, yo, tell me everything. I'm like, I feel like sometimes people forego that process of letting go and just experiencing it so that they don't have these weird, like, it was okay. They were just rolling in black and white, whatever. Like, I want to see it for what it is,
Absolutely. Yeah, this week's dropping in about 1 week.
So 1 week. All right. We will keep an eye out for that. Let's also discuss a few things here, which is in between all of this stuff, when you're looking back at competing at Combat Jiu-Jitsu, it's going to be you, it's going to be Thor again. in this one, correct?
I'm not sure if Thor's in it. I know for sure I'm in it. I believe Kyle B is in it as well.
So Kyle, okay.
Those are the guaranteed spots. So if we already have 2 guaranteed spots, I don't think there should be a third. I know Sloan has an alternate match. So that's already 3 of us.
Sorry.
So I'm not sure. I think might have dropped out, and that's why Kyle had the spot.
Got it.
I could be correct, but
you know what happens? I go off of memory from the promo. So I have a photographic memory about like when I see an event coming out, I can remember the promotional video that comes out, and I remembered seeing Thor prominently displayed on there. I didn't know Kyle was replacing him, or I don't know. I mean, literally, that's dope too because you guys are both super good, and he's on a tear right now, so there's not really a bad way through. Well, that's pretty interesting. Okay, I was about to say, because the joke I had in store was, are you and Thor going to just rock, paper, scissors at this time? Because I feel like the last time when I saw you guys, I was like, for me personally, I appreciate the fact that Eddie and Vic and all the guys make it so that only one team can represent usually at the end. But, like, it's so hard watching that match, knowing both of you and being like, y'all are on the same team. I like both of you guys. I wish well for both of you. You know, and you just kind of sit there and you just sit back and say, like, let nature take its course. And the fact that it's so close between the two of you is one of those things where I go, all right, somebody want to move up or down in weight? Because, yo, I would be okay with that too, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a battle at 185 right now.
I like the two that you had a match that you were like, yo, I was bulking up for a little bit, and I was feeling good. I could eat what I want, and then all of a sudden they come in, and it's like that drops out, and you go, guess I'm gonna not have any cereal today. That's dope.
No food, no water. I was cramping up every match. The qualifiers, I'm like dealing with cramps. So I'm like fighting myself as well as my opponent at the same time. But yeah, definitely next time I need a little bit of notice.
Well, you know what? We didn't actually talk about qualifiers. I saw a little bit of it, and I wanted to ask you to walk us through the day because maybe I just felt like it just went so quick that I was like, oh, did we already talk about it? Because those matches, I mean, you did well. Let's say that. I can say that for you, but why don't we go and walk people through what happened, sir?
Absolutely. So my first match, really tough. I believe it was Eric from Tim Planet Phoenix. Very tough dude. We actually went against him one time actually in Mercedes' tournament, bullpen submission series. So I already knew he really had good dexterity, really good flexibility. And I was just trying to finish, like basically like my first encounter, you know, I was trying to finish for 8 minutes. There was 2 minutes left. I figured I couldn't really finish him. If I could finish in 8 minutes, probably not gonna finish him in this last 2 minutes. So you start, you know, playing chess, you know, start conserving. You start thinking like, oh, well, if I can't finish him, might as well. I'm probably gonna go to overtime. So should I keep trying to go for this kill right now? Even though I always want to go for the kill, should I save some of this energy for these next couple rounds when I can get this W? So ended up going to overtime, going all 3 rounds of overtime, probably like 18-minute match. Ended up winning by fastest escape. Which really tough opponent. I felt kind of drained after that one because I felt like since I didn't cut it, I did a weight cut and stuff, I didn't get all my nutrients for the first match. So like after everything I kind of put in my body, I felt like I lost after the first match, you know? So that was the first match. My second match was against, I believe, Matt Kibley. I believe it was Matt from Planet San Diego. Really tough dude, really strong, really good solid wrestling, good overhooks, underhooks. Really strong, like I said, really strong. He came in with a single. I felt his strength, so I knew how to kind of be more smart with my play style. So I pulled guard, and I was trying to force him to make a little first mistake, you know, make him put his hands in the wrong position. So started feeling my flow, started getting more inverted. He wasn't really controlling how he should have been controlling, so I ended up getting an inverted triangle right away. And then one of the funniest parts I hear Scott Epstein from Tim Planet West LA tell me, this is not Fortnite, listen to me, grab your shit and stuff like that, get the triangle perfect. So yeah, always give me a hard time, but you gotta listen to the OGs, you know. So that was good. That was my second match. My third match, really tough again against, I believe, Sloan was my third match. Sloan, really tough brown belt from Tim Planet San Diego as well. And you know, it's really tough going against your teammates because for one, you already go against them a lot in training practice, and then you already go against them in comp sometimes. So they're already familiar with your style, already know what your moves are. So it's really hard because what you want to get, they're trying to avoid at all costs, So it needs a lot of stalemates. You got to really think even more moves ahead just to trick them. And you got to throw new moves and new combos and new entries. So that was a really tough match, but I ended up getting passing, getting on top. It ended up getting overhook and getting a topside heel hook from 411 or honey hole. My fourth match was against Micah. Really tough as well because his body's really similar to mine, really lanky, really tall, so it's really hard to isolate limbs sometimes. He really good with a Russian tie, really solid wrestling as well, almost took my back. Once when I felt that, he almost dragged me, got my back. I had to respect that as well. Make sure I really focused on staying neutral. From then, he went to attack my legs, which was really surprising to me because a lot of people don't really attack my legs. But he went to attack my legs, and he just left his legs a little bit vulnerable. He wasn't really on a defensive when he was on the offense, so I ended up countering him and also getting an inside hook from honey hole. Then that was my fourth match. And then ended up my fifth match was against Sloan again because qualifiers, it was by point accumulation. So it was if you won by submission and regulation, I believe it was like 6 points. If you won by submission and overtime, it was 3 points, and maybe like 2 points by fastest escape or something like that. So I was already up because I was finishing a lot, but it still was like the finals match, first and second place of a point accumulation or whatever, but how to go against each other in the finals, regardless if you already beat them in the first 4 matches. So I was like, okay, I know already how to go get Sloan probably again, So I'm like, okay, I got to go get Sloan twice this day. I'll go get some all the time in training, all the time in comps. I'm like, bro, this is going to be even harder. I'm depleted. Fifth match of the day, it's after all these like quintets too. So it's already been a long day, and I'm like, okay, so I had to get my mind together. A very tough match. He came in really strong. Came in with a flying guillotine. I had to respect it right away. Had to backdoor, control his hips, go inverted to get out. He ended up having really good pressure with his hips. Actually passed my guard, got to mount for a little bit as well. It was getting me into that chopping block, really getting that good isolation, which was really hard to get out of because he has really good power, really strong, But like with anything, you just got to stay patient, and figure out the solution, work the problem. So I ended up surviving that. We ended up going to overtime, and then all 3 rounds of overtime, and ended up winning by fastest escape or right time.
Because that's the thing when you mention, you're like, oh, I had Sloan in round 3, and I was like, wait, I saw the photo of you guys in your final round. So for a split second, this is why I have to ask these qualifying questions, because the hard part is this. When they put on the qualifiers, I'll do my best to try and keep up with it, and I'll usually like try and watch. But then they've got the breaks, and then they've got you mentioned they had like a little quintet matches that were going on. So like I'm doing my best to watch, but how do I put this? Sometimes Raph has to go train. Like, You know what I mean? Like, I love you guys, but I need it way more than you guys. Like, I was down in Orange County. I was watching a little bit, and then I had to stop. So there was a period where I knew things had started well for you, and I knew other things were going on. But when I Sloan again, I was like, did this break? Is the feed? Bro, like, what happened, dude? Like, I started thinking, like, what happened? And I know he's great. It's not that as an issue. It's just more so being like, or is Eddie now making it like a game show that's like, all right, you beat Sloan once, okay? But now he got the golden apple. Which when you get the golden apple, now he comes back to the finals. It's a golden ticket, but it's a golden apple. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore. So I'm glad to hear that part as the story coming up for him. And of course, we want to make sure that we mention now he has the super fight as well. So he'll be on the card as well, correct? That's got to feel pretty good that it's like, yo, dude, you worked your ass off too. I know, it's me and you that are competing against each other, but you're going to be on the card as well. It's not just in case of emergency, you hang out and nothing happens. Now you're on the card with the potential of who knows what happens, but at the very least, you're coming with us to Mexico. So I think that's pretty dope too. What do you find is changing in terms of like 10th Planet's awareness for combat jiu-jitsu? Because it feels like all of you guys are modifying parts of your game now because of combat jiu-jitsu. I feel like even though you guys have elements where you're attacking the legs and there's still good passing and whatnot, I've just seen small subtleties, and you're somebody who's competed in both formats. What have you seen as the differences just within your own style of competing and that you've observed?
I see in like a lot more clinch work, you know, being more with underhooks, head positioning being more important, more dominant position, being more on top, more smashing, chopping block, underhooks, just being more using gift wrap, stuff like that, just being more dominant, just so if strikes are issue or are in the equation, we're safe, you know. So even if we're not practicing strikes, if strikes do come in factor or become a factor, it's no difference. We're still doing the same flows, the same thing. We don't want to have something coming up and have to change everything. We want to have something already part of our curriculum, so it's easy.
Okay. Now, when I mentioned changing things, I want to bring this up because you're somebody who off air has mentioned this, but I don't know if we really talked about it on air. You have the ability to pull off certain kind of outfits that other people I don't think could. Now, you have a very high fashion sense. Now, I'm going to put this on so that people who didn't see what you were wearing can see it. But I need you, and I know you can't see it, but you know what you wore. So I need you to tell people, as I put this on right next to you in the screen, what exactly are we looking at you wearing here? So what is this? What was the rash guard you were wearing that day, sir?
Which one was it? The qualifiers?
This was the qualifiers.
Yeah, so that's my Merc with the Mouth Deadpool rash guard. So the shirt is set, has a full everything Deadpool has on, from the sticker, the Watchman sticker, the smiley face, you know, with the blood on it, to the guns on the side, all the detail, everything exactly the same.
Who got that for you, and how did that happen?
It's my sponsors, man. X-Guard. They just helped me up, hooked me up with all the apparel. Anything I really asked for, they just accommodate. You know, they hook me up with all the gear. They know I have a competition coming up, or I hit them up. I need this kind of gear. They're the first ones that send me, you know, right away, whatever I need. So, you know, they get me that one. I have a couple Boba Fett's. You know, I have the Wolverine ones, all kind of different designs. Yeah, just keep it interesting.
Yo, dog, I don't know that I could pull off half of the shit you wear, because I saw you once wear, I think it was just like an all white uniform with a hat, right? Or something like where I was like, yo, I would wear that and I'd get called Raiden. He wears that and it looks pretty tight. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But then you told me very nicely, and I want to do this. We haven't set up a time. But you were like, yo, you haven't even seen my closet. You need to come in and film something like this. And I was like, I would love to. But I'm also still at the place where I'm just like, I don't think you understand the difference between, like, if you put one of those things on me, I'm pretty sure I'd look at you and be like, now, be honest, how stupid do I look wearing this? Do you get that?
It is with confidence. You know, you have the confidence, you put it off. But if you don't have the confidence we have now, you can't put it off.
Listen, I'm not lacking in confidence. I think anybody who talks to me about what I do in terms of being a talker knows that I'm quite okay at being like, no, I'm pretty good at this. I just also happen to know as a comic, sometimes I look at myself wearing things and I go, okay, this is for the comedy. That's what I'm doing this one for. Okay, no problem. So I have no issue wearing it. But I want to bring up, we have a couple notes here. Let's go ahead and talk about this. We have this note that says, from Doreen McLean, that says, being a Jits mom, I see 10th Planets changing and evolving since Eddie made the announcement that EBI is going towards all CJJ. So it's either evolve or be left behind. Can I say a personal note here, which is so great about this, is, speaking of family, your family could not be better supporters of me. They are always showing up. They're always, like, watching not just your interviews, but, like, everybody's interviews. And not just 10th Planet interviews. I do have one minor gripe, and I need you to go ahead and kind of, like, send this back their way. I know they're watching, but I know it'll be more effective if you tell them. They've been trying to also get me to get murdered by you. Now, notice, I didn't say the word train. there have been several times where it has nothing to do with you or anybody else. And they're like, I think you should go train with Kyle. And I was like, no, no, you know what it is. I was like, that would not go well for me. And I was like, I'm not opposed to training with a lot of people. I train with a lot of people. But, you know, like, if you ever were to look at, like, trading cards and see people's power levels, I know where I fall. I'm somewhere in this region. Kyle's, you know, elsewhere. And so they're always like, no, you should go. And I'm like, look, this is a funny joke that Kyle and I have where, like, I'm sure if I was at your gym, I'd train with you. But, like, I love the fact that your mom's like, let's see it happen. I want to see Raph die. Just like, oh, God. So
I love it.
I want to go ahead and say this.
All this moment has come out right by the beach. You can see the beach or my gym. You'll love it.
The beach? That sounds like something you say in a child's novel where the character dies. The beach looks nice today. And then Raph was suddenly murdered by vicious...
Back in a nice deep rear naked choke, you can see the sunset.
You know, I will tell you this. I've always been of the mindset that I can't do jokes about people without offering to go train at their places. And I was just telling Chase in the interview before this that for the very first time when I went to go take photos at Dream BJJ, I told Boogie and I told PJ, I was like, you know, I'm actually in town. I'm going to stay one extra day because I always go down and back, and I'm going to train out there. The whole time I'm rolling with people, Boogie was doing this. Yo, I just want to say I'm actually insulted that it's taking you this long to get out here, bro. And I know it's all love, but this was not all love. And I'm like trying to pass one of his guys' guards, and I'm like, no, I know. Thanks, dude. It's cool. And he's just like, Raph, I'm just letting you know that, like, if you liked us, that you would have shown up earlier. But it's insulting if you haven't. And I was like...
Sounds just like Boog.
And then all of a sudden, the poor kid I'm rolling with underneath goes, he's like this every day, man. This is pretty rough. but I told people, I'm like, I have a rule, which is I only do jokes that I would say to somebody's face. So Doreen is already starting here, and she says, Raph versus Kyle super fight at the holiday party this year. No, you could do better. This man has way more important things to do, but thank you. No, I appreciate the love that they give us. It is so nice and so, you know what it is? It builds to the other athletes. And that's something that I can appreciate, which is like, you know, so often we get these parents that are always like, my son or my daughter, or yay. But it's like, that's the stuff that I think we need to translate to make people feel loved and accepted who also compete in other realms. So I just wanted to send that as a very, very nice do this. Let me see this. Okay. As about grappling chambers, I just saw somebody put this and I have no idea what this means. And Kyle Chambers, you're the man. I'm about to create custom emotes and sub bandages for your streaming. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what that means. Now, you were mentioning a little bit about video games, and as we had coming into this, our good friends Ryan Labella and JJ Wilson had some competition that they were doing. I have an old school gaming client. I got a little 2-deck joystick gaming console that has 1,500 old school video games on there. You were mentioning that you and those guys get down. Is it Mario Kart? What are you guys getting down on when you guys are playing video games?
Oh, man. So it's a lot of... So it's like usually me, my boy Hillerbrand, Gio, Kevin, sometimes Youre, Caltera. There's a lot of us. We get usually, depending on the game, it's 4 or 5 people that can play at a time based on theirs, of course. And we all just talk about everything, you know, life, jiu-jitsu, whatever comes to mind. And a lot of times it just depends. A lot of times we might play a lot of shooters. So it could be something like Call of Duty, Fortnite, or it could be more fighting related. But a lot of times it has to be something at least 4 or 5 of us can play. So right now, Kevin's trying to get me on some racing games, man. I keep sending me all the videos. Every couple of minutes, like, yo, this is so cool. You should invest in this game. Like, come on. And he always gets me. I'm like, okay, why not? And then next, you know, only 3 of us played. And all the other crews like, you guys are weird, man. Let's get back to the regular game. Let's get to the regular schedule. So,
so let me ask this. What game, like, who's the best all-around gamer? Because it sounds like you guys are playing multiple games. who is the best all around? Because there's different formats that you guys seem to be going into here.
I'm the best.
Okay.
Awesome. Oh no, we have. Just to be honest though, it just depends. We all have our own skills. We all we're like a team. Everybody has their special responsibilities. Certain times I might be off. Kevin takes the load. He has a really good on game. Gio can have a really on game. We all play bad. So honestly, it's whoever's day it is. But a lot of times, I'm gonna get so much stock. I don't even know if I want to say that. Everybody's like me right now. But fighting games, me or Kevin, Gio's so good too. Only at fighting games, he's not the best at shooting games. He acts like he's good at shooting games, but he's not the best at shooting games. But fighting games, he got some skills. I give him that. But either me or Kevin.
You or Kevin.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Does this, and answer how you like, does the competition on the video games ever make its way to the mats?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you say something out of line when you're trying to troll on a mic. You gotta say sometimes on a mic, especially when it's late at night. You feel a little risky. It's midnight. Talk game, troll. You're laughing, and then like, okay, you remember that. So next time you roll on the mat, you might be in compromising positions sometimes, and then they whisper in your ear, like, remember that one thing you said about this and that? So yes, definitely sometimes it leads back to that.
I've just been curious because one of the spin-offs that we will be doing more and more was very similar to what we were showing there, but this is the actual gaming deck. This old school is the Pandora's box, comes preloaded with 1,500 old school like arcade games. And I'll tell you, man, the reason why I knew we had a home run when I bought it, because my wife looked at me and was like, what? And I was like, no, it's not for me. It's for the show. It's for the show, babe. Come on, you know that. And she's just like, sure. Like at this point, she understood because she goes, I bet these guys are so competitive that you put that there. And I was like, mm-hmm. And so the thing that I'm thinking, though, is I watched how Demetrius Johnson went from rebranding himself when people were like, oh, he's boring. And I was like, I used to say he was boring too. But then he went on Twitch and he found an audience. And then all of a sudden that perception changed because people were like, GOAT. Just, yeah, he's so good. And I was like, not really much has changed. Like, granted, he's always been beast. Now you just like him more. And so it made me think, like, how do we get people to do this a little bit more? And I'll say this. At Ultimate Mat Warriors, Ronnie and JJ had their competition. Ronnie won the video games. Then JJ won in overtime. The producer and me went to go find them. And I was like, well, where are they? Hey, come over here. And they already went to the video game. And they were just like, no, we're going to settle it here. And I was like, this is all I wanted. This is perfect. So I like this. Doreen just said, Raph, you're not a real gamer until you spend $300 on a custom controller to play. Ask Kyle. Kyle?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, a brand called Scuff. When you try to play at a high level, it's all about reaction time and your speed between your fingers and your brain. And a lot of times, the button layout on most regular controllers, it's harder to do certain things. Your buttons are too close. A lot of times, and you're not using your back fingers. You see all these, you're using most of your thumbs and maybe your index fingers. So there's a lot of fingers that you're not engaging. So the Scuff controller is more of a pro controller. All the back fingers you're now engaging. They all have paddles, responsibilities now. So now whatever you're doing, it can be even faster. So your reaction time, your combos in video games, all that has increased dramatically. So just getting that Scuff controller, you get it different colors, different kind of grips. Can make it lighter because with no vibrations. Customized skins on it. You can have Galaxy of Freaks, Carnival. You can have whatever you want, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. Have warranty. Comes with all these different ways you can take off parts, add parts. It's definitely worth it.
I wanna say this. This is terrifying, and I realized something as I was hearing you mention this. You almost were describing it in the same way that you would describe as you're giving a private for jiu-jitsu, where you're like, nah, Raf, we gotta warm up these hands a little bit, okay? So we get that warm up, because when we don't hit the back of the tips here, we're really not getting our full gameplay, all right? I do seminars and I can do privates to help you with your gaming needs, Raf. And I'm like, wait, what? Am I getting sold here? What's happening?
That's why I feel like a lot of jiu-jitsu people do gaming, because it's really competitive, of course. You're using kind of the same kind of mind. You're constantly problem solving. You're constantly doing the same thing. You're trying to always engage every kind of muscle. In jiu-jitsu, if you're just using your upper body and not engaging your lower body, you're not doing something right. You're not doing that technique right, because you should be engaging everything. Your core, everything. Same thing with video games. Really similar. The competitive edge, the feelings you get. You feel like you're in it. Just very similar.
Well, let me ask this, because I trust your opinion. And this isn't the only thing I'm going to be doing with this thing. Like, this is nice, this is fun, but I've also got a couple other projects that I'm working on that are similar to that. But I want to know, what game, if I were to pick one or two or three, I respect your opinion, what games do you think would speak to those like yourself who are jiu-jitsu folk and who also are video game folk? What are those games that you guys are addicted to playing that you feel would be highly, introducing it would be highly competitive to y'all?
Motor Combat always. Motor Combat's been around forever. Every generation knows it. There's new ones that came out now. That's a great one. It's one-on-one. It's really technical. Got to do mix-ups, high, low, mids. You got to understand blocking mechanics, what's coming. So that's a really competitive game and a high-level thinking process. So I feel like that's really good, especially who doesn't like a little bit of violence, especially when you're trying to release some stress. So you can't really cut off somebody's head in real life. Well, I guess you can, but
please don't. That would be terrible. We'd have like EBI would stop working now, or Combat Jiu-Jitsu would be like, well, it's been a good run, everybody. We actually decapitated somebody and we're done now.
That'd be a little much for the viewing audience, but yeah. So Mortal Kombat is like a good fighting game, because if you can't get Mortal Kombat, you have to get Smash Bros. Smash Bros is one that's been around for a long time as well. Mostly everybody plays it. It's good, high level fighting game as well. People do like shooters, but it's hard to have a competitive shooter game that you can just have a one-on-one battle with. So I wouldn't really recommend that. You could always do some type of sports game. But a lot of times if you're purely jiu-jitsu, some people only focus on jiu-jitsu, so that's kind of hard, because a lot of people won't probably like basketball or football if they're just jiu-jitsu athletes, so that's why I'll say more fighting-based games.
Okay. All right. Because, again, other projects are coming up that I'm very much, I may have meetings to talk about for other things, and I'm sure our nice circle of folks, I wouldn't be surprised if they get asked to be a part of it. But if I do happen to have this and you're in the region, Are you good for taking on somebody on one of these client games here?
If anybody wants to, lose real quick, I'll be happy to slap, a couple of W's my way, put it on my, on my books, I don't mind giving up some L's,
It's beautiful, man, because I'll tell you, man, the funniest thing about seeing Ronnie, and I ran into him at Dream as well, but I ran into him and I go, what's really funny? And he goes, what's that? I go, I got people that are like, yo, tell that Labella kid if he wants smoke, right here, man. And I'm like, yeah, and I just was like, I don't think you understand. Ronnie's like the nicest kid in the world. Like, he's not the type that like does that. He just shows up and plays a video game, dude. He's a really nice kid. And they're like, nah, you tell that kid if he wants the smoke, just to find me right here. And I was like, yo, dog, I don't, and I told Ronnie that. He's just like, very violent. Oh my God, Raph, they're coming after me. And I was like, I go, dude, now you're my point man, because now I got people who want to murder you, kid, and they want to go after you. But he was laughing.
Take him out.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like you might, and I'm sure that I can go ahead and instigate one of those things, but we will be putting together more of those things, and I wanted to make sure we can put you down as one of the individuals. It's my hope that maybe at a tournament one of these days, or a big event, that I can bring that, and before we get to it, there's like a mini tournament that happens before the tournament. I had pitched it to Boogie, and I was like, yo, dude, is it cool? And I brought it to Ultimate Mat Warriors because I said, I think your event's the perfect place to kind of do it. And Boogie was all about, like, he's like, dude, do whatever you want. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, the only thing I don't want to do is make it supersede your show, you know? I was like, I want to make sure we're respectful and that we're not just drawing away attention. I was like, because I know the athlete mind span of like how long they're there for before they're like food or compete. Those are the two things I want on competition days. So if it's not food or competing, then get out of my way. I'm like, fair enough. So I think we will be working to make that happen. Let's do this. Let's talk about what's coming up, because obviously you've got November 23rd in Mexico. You're looking to potentially be doing some seminars out in Texas, I think, by the end of the year. What is the information on that?
Yeah, that's correct. So I don't know necessarily the dates, but I do know I'm going to have 2 seminars in Texas, I believe North Dallas and Mount Pleasant. Give you guys a date shortly, but just if you guys are in an area, make sure you guys come by. I'm going to be teaching 2 different things, both seminars. So even if you go to one, you're more than welcome to go to the other one and learn totally different techniques. Have that coming up. Like I said, we have the movie, of course, the short film with Ash and Phalanx. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We have the CJJ November 23rd, Saturday in Monterey. Yeah, man, that's it.
And what is the CBD that you have an association with, sir?
It's Our Life CBD. So it's a big company. We actually had a tour maybe about a month ago. We were actually going to different gyms, showing the benefits of our CBD, the benefits of jiu-jitsu, how they work together. Because most athletes, you already know, you're training every day, all day. Recovery is so big for you, you know, because you can't train every day and not have some type of recovery. So I really love Our Life CBD because they're really, I always say, they're true to their product. A lot of companies say that they have a certain amount of, let's say if it's a 3,000 milligram bottle, they say if you have this amount of CBD in a bottle and then you take it, you don't feel no effects, you're still just as sore as you were, you know, however long ago before you took it. So I really like this company just because, like I said, the true to their product, they say they have 3,000 milligrams or whatever, or how many ever CBD they have in it. They actually have that. You feel the effects right away. It's something you just really need, especially as athletes, man. You're training so much, putting your body through so much. You need to have the right forms of recovery. So yeah, that's what we're working with, Our Life CBD. We did a tour. Stay tuned to that. Probably going to have another one in the future with a lot of new locations, mostly on the West Coast, but stay tuned for that as well.
They're very good people. I'm friends with them. I know that they're, you know, I mean, one of the things that always makes me happy is, are they taking care of the athletes? Are they giving you opportunities? And to get you guys on a tour, I thought was pretty dope. So I was very happy to see you guys get some exposure and some love out that way. And I mean, the nice part is too, kind of nice if the people on the tour are getting that jiu-jitsu as well, where they're like, wait, we're gonna talk CBD and do some jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I'm down. Okay, that's cool. So I'm very happy to see the way they're treating their athletes so far. So very, very pleased with that. All right, kids, if you are looking to find Kyle Chambers, where does one look and where do they find you, sir?
My Instagram is K_Chambers10P. That's my Instagram handle. If you guys want private seminars, anything like that, just DM me. Let me know.
That's good stuff. I gotta say, man, again, as wild as it was for me to look on my social media and see like, oh, hey, not only am I losing 14 pounds, but I'm doing combat qualifiers and oh, I won. And also, okay, that was a weird 48 hours, guys. I just thought, I'm happy you get to go back to the dance. I'm very excited to see how that goes. We will obviously be watching here. And rooting you on, my man. And it's always great to catch up with you. And again, I say this to all the people who were one of the first people who came on our show when we first branded the spinoff, is that you were so nice and so accommodating, and you're always good to run into. And it was so fun to even commentate your matches, a match at Subversive, because I always like watching you guys, but getting to tell your stories is fun, even when y'all are doing things that I'm like, oh my God, I hope people know how hard some of this stuff is, because whew, just looking at it, you get exhausted. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we thanked you accordingly for your time, my man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. I appreciate every time we get to see each other. Hopefully it's not another year so I get to talk to you or see you again.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay. I know. Here's what I got to tell you. If you win... This man came into my house and was like, yeah, it was nice. It was a year, Raph. Would have loved an invitation sooner. Been winning other things too, but that's cool. We don't need to talk about that.
I know we're all, but I get it, but once in a while.
I will say, there's only been I'm trying to think. There's only been a couple people who have appeared more than once. So you're in a very rare category because I try to spread the love. I try to make sure that we get everybody on the show. I want to say you're in rare esteem with, say, Uriah Faber, Gordon. Maybe Gordon's been on 3 times. I can't say. I just know that there are some. I actually have a list, and I make sure that I keep the list updated as to who's their first time on the show, how many times have they been back. So I know who and what and where, when, and all that sort of stuff. But like, you were one of, I think, the first 10, 12 guests that we had on the show. And now we've already had over 100 athletes in the first year. So if you do that math, and if you're one of the only ones to get a repeat occurrence, you're now within that top 15 percentile of folks. So it's not without reason. It's not just because I'm like, get away. I don't know why. I'm friendly on camera, but I don't talk to them in real life. It's like, no. No, I duck you on here. That's a very different thing. I make sure that's very consistent. And just so people know, what I say to him here is almost verbatim what I said to him when I see him in person. And he's like, dude, come train. I'm like, why? Just tell me why. Because, like, even if you gave me a roadmap that literally showed me the way to submit you, I'm pretty sure I'd be like, hold on, I'm supposed to pass left. And it says knee staple here, but you've already regarded. So I don't think that's going to work here. I could have all of it.
You talk about back or something or arm bar, we give you the whole 99% full weekend.
I can guarantee you, I've watched your escapes. You know, and this is the thing I hate about all the 10th Planet guys. All of you guys have gotten so good at the EBI overtime because it is what you guys drill and practice. So you have to be really proficient at it. So even when you start in those really bad spots, good for 10th Planet people. For the rest of us yahoos, I'm like, can we do this in the gi? Because if I have his back and I have a lapel, at least I can keep him from going away for like a minute. Otherwise, you get like, what was it, Kyle and Tex over the weekend in 9 and 14 second escapes. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here, both of you. In my best days, I'm still like, huh? And they're like, how long did it take? It's like, Raph, it took you 2 minutes to get out of that. Okay. That's good. That's really good. So I will tell you this. You will be back on, I would hope, after winning Combat Jiu-Jitsu coming up in 2 weeks, because we will talk to who wins that. And then after that, I'm sure we'll figure out a time. Hopefully I'll know when the next Ultimate Mat Warriors is, and I'll see if I can carve out some time so that way we can do those segments where we can get you playing some video games and we can get you to show me whatever weird, crazy shit I could never wear. Clothing that you've got at the house.
I got you.
Anyway, my thanks to both Kyle Chambers and Chase Hanna for an amazing day of interviews. If you guys aren't following us, do so right now. Go follow us at Grappling Hour on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We're on Twitch now because that's a thing. Especially when you got guys like him. I'm pretty sure that's where he would catch it. Periscope, all the good places, on Twitter as well, at Grappling Hour on all those major services. Subscribe to us, give us some likes, give us some loves, give us some shares. On behalf of everybody here, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you guys on the mats.